live stream and our second D2C Multiverse session. My name is Sarah and I'll be your host today. Today we have Sudarshan Gangrade, who is the founder of Bajo Foods, a company that produces a range of products that are targeted to people with diabetes and those looking for more protein-based options. In addition to their keto offerings in the form of low foods, they have also developed a low-carb solution for managing diabetes, and Protein Chef, a cookable vegetarian protein powder for those looking to add more protein to their diets. Bajo Foods quickly became Amazon's most favorite keto brand. We all know how prestigious that Amazon Picks badge is. And they now operate the largest low-carb cloud kitchen in India. So thank you so much, Sudarshan, for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and the inspiration behind Bajo Foods?
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for having me over. So my name is Sudarshan, and I'm the founder of Bajo Foods. We have 3 brands, all of them targeted towards creating a low carbohydrate offering for Indian consumers. Our overall mission statement is to take low carb food to 100 million Indians. We have 3 different brands, and each of these brands represent 3 different segments that we go after. One is directed towards the weight loss segment, which is the keto product that we have. The second is our Diabetes Smart brand, which is directed towards the diabetic audience. And the third one is Protein Chef, which is directed towards the high protein, low carb audience. All the 3 products are built at the core. The core chassis is one of low carbohydrate food products. About myself, I got into this about 4 years back. Before that, I was running a company called Lean Science, which was in the whole diet and fat loss space. Very quickly, I realized, we were offering diet fat loss consulting, and a lot of it was, techniques and protocols that today are becoming more mainstream. So we were fairly early in terms of how we approach this entire space of nutrition, diet, fat loss, including the continuous glucose monitors, CGMs, right, which are very, very popular now. I was among probably the earliest users of Abbott CGMs in Bangalore way back about 5-6 years back when they actually launched the product first time. So being part of various and through this, it was very clear to me that India is the diabetes capital of the world, cardiac risk capital of the world, and a lot of other issues that we keep hearing about, lifestyle diseases. And fundamentally, they trace back to the fact that we over-index on carbohydrates. And that's really what I wanted to change, create a low carbohydrate, but a very Indian and a very tasty and healthy option. But like Indian food habits, but low on carbohydrates. That was really the genesis. And that's why where we started off was with keto, which is the ultra low carb segment. And today we are now moved on to larger segments, which is the diabetes and the protein audience.
That's fantastic. And can you walk us through a little bit of your research process and development process for understanding these challenges and providing the solutions for them?
Yeah, so all the product development is done in-house. And the reason for that is because the products that we end up building are first of their kind products. Because in the Indian food habit system, there is really no the kind of products that we wanted to build, which are everyday Indian kind of food habits. They didn't exist in the keto form, and which is why we pretty much had to develop everything from scratch. Subsequently, even the diabetic product line and the protein product line, these are all one of their kind innovations, first time built products. So pretty much everything is done in-house. We have a team of nutritionists and product food technologists, and we work with external consultants also to help fine-tune the product and the seasonings. But in essence, the product is all built in-house.
That's really amazing that an in-house product could grow to be one of Amazon's top picks. You must be so proud of your business and your team. So congratulations on doing that. What strategy or tactic do you think helped you stand out most against your competitors in the marketplace? I know you're talking about being the first to market. I'm sure imitation is the most common form of flattery, I think. I'm terrible at expressions, so apologies. But you must have a lot of people trying to copy you now. So how do you stand out in the marketplace?
Yeah, we do actually. All the products that we introduced, and obviously there are replicas available, but our product really stands out. I think the only way to crack the Amazon's choice is to have an absolutely fantastic product. I mean, there's really no bypass to that, because Amazon's choice is not just a function of volume; it's a function of ratings, reviews, repeat purchases, and that is also given a lot of weightage by Amazon, and which is, I mean, nobody knows the algorithm, but that's our sense. And which is why I think a great product is, and probably the most important starting point for this. And then in the end, a great product in the food industry is characterized typically by taste and texture. As much as you may deliver any kind of health benefits, but finally it boils down to taste, especially when you're talking about the snacking category. So that's something which we are very, very particular about, that it has to be taste great. I mean, that's absolutely, you may build the greatest, most functional and most nutritious product, but if our ambition is to go at scale 100 million people, you can't do that without a great tasting product.
For sure. And just to touch on that a little bit more. So you said taste and texture are often big touch points for identifying a great product. What else makes a great product in your mind in general across any category?
So then when you come down to sales, right? I mean, purely as a product, if one were to look at, your packaging, especially, online first brands, packaging is your first touch point with for all the customers. In fact, it's probably going to be the only way people interact with you, because D2C brands, especially startups, don't have the kind of money to spend big on television and other mass media. So in the end, it's your packaging that speaks first, and probably the only piece that speaks. So a great product, as great as it may be, how you present the product is also just as important. And that's why you see, all big companies spend a lot of effort in terms of the experience of the product, also in terms of how it's opened or how it's consumed. And so I think the product experience also is often missed out beyond just the taste and texture. I mean, those are absolutely non-negotiables, but even the experience of presenting the product, packaging being a large part of it, and even small things like, what kind of Ziploc do you use, and the minor things, but those add to the product experience as well.
For sure. And on the other side, so we were just talking about marketplaces. We were just talking about what makes a great product. How do you build a relationship with customers via the D2C business model? How has this relationship building and personalization help you gain traction and achieve your growth targets?
So there are two parts to this. One is the marketplaces, which often for D2C brands take up a large part of their, form a large part of their business. There, the platform takes care of a lot of the personalization in terms of what product lines to show, whom to show, and you. I mean, one level, not exactly personalization, but one level that we try to do is based on where the revenue comes from. We look at the geographical distribution, and we try to ensure that the specific products, or at least enough inventory, is there by geography in the warehouses that are closer to the customers. So that's one thing that feeds into the marketplace algorithm. And then, of course, you have the keywords and all the other optimization that needs to be done. On our own website, it's a very different ballgame because we control the personalization. So on marketplaces, there's only that much you can control. But on our website, that's where we control. There are obviously ways to, what you show as related products. That's the most common form of personalization. We do not have a website personalization in terms of homepage and other selections, but mostly it is a related products where we bring in personalization. We also bring in personalization in terms of the communication with the consumers, and that's really where I think most of the personalization can be brought in terms of the product selection that they're shown or the kind of offers that are sent to them. So those are the places where one can bring in personalization more from for repeat customers or customers who've already visited our website.
Definitely. And in terms of that, so just kind of speaking to marketplaces and D2C, what would you say are the advantages and the disadvantages to both? Should an early stage D2C go on Amazon as well as their own website? Should they stick to their own website? What's your kind of guidance there?
So I think it's a function of the category you're in, and also a function of the what's the timeline and horizon you're looking at. I mean, building your own brand is obviously important, but it takes time. And what I have noticed is, when you have to work with what is least friction for the customer, right? And the least friction for the customer is an Amazon, and the D2C brands. Most people are the initial customers are all Amazon Prime customers who just want to buy it quickly. They have a trust built in. They have a next day delivery built in. So you have to work with where the customer finds trust in, and that's something which inevitably ends up being some marketplaces. But having said that, our own building our own website traffic takes a lot of time. Otherwise, you have to keep going back to them, giving more and more discounts, and come back and shop with us, not with the marketplace. You can do that through having a certain selection that's specific to your website. But like I said, it takes time to build that kind of base and that kind of an understanding in the consumer that look, there's a very unique proposition and a unique set of products that's available only on their website. So it takes time. So I think from a quick win perspective, a marketplace helps because you immediately get access to millions of customers coming on the platform. But from a long-term perspective, it's always good to build on your brand and your own website.
For sure. And on that, do you think there are certain industry specific nuances? So for example, the food and beverage industry that distinguish your selling tactics on your website versus on Amazon?
Yeah, so I think food particularly is, and the kind of food, snacking staples, all of them, they are probably the most e-commerce unfriendly products. That's because the logistics cost to the value ratio is the poorest in terms of, so for example, what you have in terms of the weight of the product and consequently logistics cost. And food by itself is typically, and even if you have a premium food product, you can't go beyond a certain point. I mean, you can have probably a 10-gram beauty product that will sell for, a very, very high premium, 500 rupees, 800 rupees, $15. But you can't have a 10-gram food product. I mean, a regular snacking food product that you're selling, you can't sell it beyond 10 rupees or, a few cents. And that makes it extremely e-commerce unfriendly. So you end up having to sell large packs or multiple packs, combo packs. And for a new brand, which a consumer hasn't experienced, that becomes a chicken and egg situation because you want to start with a small pack to get a sense of the brand, but then you're forced to sell at a high price because otherwise the logistics costs just don't work out. So it's a chicken and egg, and I think that's where the food industry is different from the other e-commerce industries like fashion or beauty or personal care, in that the value to the logistics ratio, cost ratio is extremely skewed. That's where quick commerce, which is really helps. That's where grocery commerce helps. That's where milk commerce helps. Those channels. I mean, those are channels where you get delivery in 10 minutes, or they're not focused on the size of the product. They are just focused on one run of delivery. So they could carry a 50-gram product or a 500-gram product. It doesn't make a difference. So those are really the commerce formats that work best for food industry, not the traditional e-commerce marketplace like Amazon's. But having said that, Amazon still has a bulk of the consumers, so you have to play the balancing game.
For sure. And I love that you spoke about omni-channel retailing, because especially in food and beverage, you want to be everywhere where customers are, right? So that does involve going into grocery commerce and more in-person retail physical locations. But unfortunately, when you go into retail, you don't get those opportunities to personalize or really empathize with the customer. So how would you approach personalization and empathy via non-digital channels?
So you just have to go for approximations. So be it in terms of the kind of stores that you would select. I mean, personalization in essence is what? It's basically you're seeing a set of products that are more relevant to you. Right. So you take the choice of location that you have, the choice of stores that you have is an approximation of the same. I mean, that's the closest approximation you can have. And after that, the next approximation is on the particular aisle or the particular brand along with which you're stacked. Because if you have a product and you go to any store, you have the full range. I mean, if you're selling cookies, for example, you could have a mass market low price cookie, or you could have an extremely premium cookie as well. So where in the store do you stack yourself within the store? That's the next level of personalization, because in the end, it's the same logic as what you see on the website, right? Related products. And what are those related products? That based on your market basket. And market basket analysis on the digital front, equivalent of that is available with the store people if you work with the offline stores people, especially the modern trade, which is more organized. So you can get some sense of what's the market basket there when you look at a bill and what are the related products that are bought. So that would be one. I mean, those are not accurate, but close approximations of what you would do in an offline world.
For sure. I really like that cart estimation online versus offline and bundling and where you appear. I think it makes so much sense to take those lessons that we learned from e-commerce and apply them to retail and vice versa. So going back to the e-commerce piece, can you talk a bit about the importance of customer data, zero-party data, and analytics in running successful brands like Bajo Foods?
So customer data is something that everyone wants, so that they can run all kinds of personalization and retention. But often that becomes very tricky for a lot of brands in terms of the kind of software that they have that captures the data. Obviously, whatever is on your website is yours, but if it's in the marketplace, then you always get only cohorts and approximations. You don't get the actual data. So it makes it extremely difficult for you to work with that. And that's where your own website really helps you in a big manner to drive retention and repeat purchases. We use a number of softwares, and we work on Shopify. So Shopify has a bunch of plugins and a bunch of softwares that offer some bit of personalization and some bit of data capture that can be used for further communication. But really, given each brand's journey is different with the customer, so just having the product selection or just the standard metrics doesn't apply. So you have to eventually build workflows that are specific to you. So for example, we are in the diabetic space. We have a product line. So, diabetic audience has a specific way in which they, it's a medical condition, right? So your journey in terms of what you surface as your product or the way you personalize there has to be some level of customization there. Like you have pre-diabetics, you have early diabetics, and you have severely diabetics. So that's where no software will be able to solve for that. So you have to bring in the human element in terms of understanding who your segment is and what would make sense.
Awesome. And on that, so in terms of segmentation and not always knowing based on the data, like you gave the example of the different types of diabetes conditions, what roles do reviews and customer feedback play in influencing conversion rates for Bajo Foods? And how do you leverage this feedback to improve the product and online experience for others?
It makes a huge difference. I think that's that for new brands, trust is the only way, and trust comes primarily from the ratings. On the marketplaces, our products, a big reason why they're Amazon's choices, we are the top rated products across thousands of ratings in the category, in every category that we play in. And that's because of the quality of our product. And that reflects automatically in terms of the conversion rates and how quickly the consumer converts. But ratings absolutely is something we track very closely. Reviews, because all ratings don't come with reviews. So reviews is something that we track on a weekly basis. There's a weekly quality review meeting that we have. We have the customer care representative, one of them who always, we start off by playing verbatim few feedbacks from customers that we've recorded. That's a starting point for any quality review meeting. So people understand what the consumer is saying. And then we run through ratings, and then we run through reviews. And in all these meetings, you have the production team also sitting in, the logistics team also sitting in, along with the business teams. Because often the product quality is determined by production, of course, but often also logistics plays a part because, it was poorly transported and that's where the quality went down. So we have common meetings, everyone's together and that's how we review it. It's that crucial to answer your question.
For sure. And would you recommend that from the get-go, early stage D2C brands establish a quality assurance piece as well as start reviewing reviews and ratings and incorporating that into their product?
Yes. I think I did not invest in it early enough, and I see the value of that. We got a dedicated quality person about a year back, a year and a half, dedicated, pure quality controller, what you see in that industry. And that's really, I think, a key part of why we moved to Amazon's choice in the last year and a half, because there is consistency is absolutely essential. That's a core definition of a brand. A brand is not, all those emotions, everything aside, brand fundamentally is that there is a consistent experience that gets delivered to them. That's really the starting point of any brand. That's what brand means, which is, what to expect. So you know what you're going to get, and that's really core consistency of experience, and that only happens when you have a strong quality control built in. So to deliver consistency of experience, that's absolutely crucial for any brand to be built.
For sure. And in terms of logistics, flavor, packaging, etc., what are some brand touch points that share this narrative of quality, that you can see the consistency of quality across? Have you seen any major impacts in one specific area, or is it across the general product?
So if I understand your question, you're saying that does quality impact other functions as well, or can you repeat the question?
Sure. So it's more setting expectations with the consumer. In what areas can they expect consistency, and where does consistency impact them the most? So I guess taste would probably be one of them, making sure that every time you buy the product, it tastes the same. The packaging is easy to use and open. Are there other areas that you've seen where consistency and quality have impacted customer loyalty and brand affinity?
Yeah, I think time of delivery. So especially when you're having your own website, the time of delivery, because in the end, you're competing with the marketplace. So if they see a 2-day delivery, 1-day delivery options also available on your website, that kind of makes a big difference, because they get to experience the product quicker, because a lot of these are impulse buys also. And B, it also gives customers a sense that you are far more in control, and you are a professional company that delivers in 1 to 2 days. So there is a signaling effect that also comes in there. So I think time of delivery, surprisingly, we've seen makes a lot of difference in terms of the experience of the consumer. Beyond that, I think, I think in food products, this is core what we see: packaging, taste, texture of the food product. Obviously, you have the expiry and the test results. For example, if you're running a health brand and a functional food brand, the quality control in terms of production is one part, but in terms of what went into building the product also, that's extremely important. And it's important that you publish those test results. Builds a lot of trust and credibility in the minds of consumers. So quality in terms of product design of the product or building the product is also just as important.
I like that answer a lot, and it makes a lot of sense going back to what you were talking about shipping, getting everything quickly. Everyone wants things in their hands as fast as they can. And I'm sure when it comes to food, you see something tasty online and you want it immediately, right? So 1 to 2 days makes sense. And then talking about building that trust, publishing those studies, sharing what's in your food is definitely a huge trust builder. And I agree with you there. I'm going to pivot a little bit back to personalization. So personalization has a lot of benefits, especially in commerce, from increasing AOV to improving inventory performance to driving customer satisfaction and loyalty. The rewards are across the shopper lifecycle. How does your brand ensure a seamless and personalized customer experience through its D2C channels?
So I think it's when consumers land on our product lines. So one is where you source them from, right? So the ads that run typically do. I mean, I'm starting from the very start, right? So when you run ads, you are targeting consumers in a certain manner and presenting them a certain communication and product line, and then obviously you're directing them to your own website with ads. Instead of driving them to the homepage, you're driving them to very specific product pages, which is in line with the communication that drove them to your website in the first place. So that's the first level of personalization, starts outside your platform. You land on your website, and then, like I said, how you talk about the product and what are the related products that you show. That's the next level in terms of where you can bring in personalization. And subsequently, once they purchase, or even if they haven't purchased and they have an abandoned cart, or even before that, if they just come and drop off, you have remarketing where you can bring in a lot of personalization in terms of how consumers, what products do they see, and what products can they are pushed to them to come back and buy and remind them to purchase. Post that, it gets into, once they bought a product, it is about first. Again, it's a communication personalization in the sense that you need to track when the product reaches them, right? And post that, give it a certain period of time, and then go back to them for feedback, rather than I mean, these are very minor things and done by a lot of people, but it's that part about they know that they've had that time to use the product and then come back to you with some kind of a constructive feedback. And post that, it becomes the entire retention and repeat purchases. So you have multiple metrics. You have the standard RFM metrics, but apart from that, you have metrics around what products that they buy, what else can you cross sell to them. Like I said, in our case, it becomes very important, because if they bought staples and you want to cross sell snacking to them, if they bought snacking, you want to cross sell indulgence to them, and then so on and so forth. So you have three broad categories: desserts, which is indulgence; you have snacking, which is impulse buy; and you have staples, which is consistent product. So, and they span different meal occasions, the way we look at it. So one is a center of plate main meals, one is a post main meals, and then one is typically dinner or later. So we personalize based on that, which is occasions of food and how they're buying. And consequently, if they've covered one occasion, can we push them the other occasion to eat as well?
Awesome. And to that, sorry about that. To that, I'm just trying to think of how to formulate this question. So we're talking about personalization. We're talking about the snack category, what's in their basket, cross-selling, upselling, putting them in stores that are close to them. If I'm an early stage D2C brand, where is the most important place to start to get that ball rolling, to establish myself in the marketplace?
You're talking about from in terms of sales, where would one want to start off from?
It could be whatever your recommendation is, whether it's sales, like what's your number one, where should someone start if they want to become like Bajo Foods?
I think it's to get initial consumer feedback. You need your first 500 customers feedback. Now you get that online quickly. You run it through some, any offline activation through which you get your customers in, doesn't matter, but getting the first 100 consumers and the founders, speaking to them as much as possible, getting a sense of what's really happening. It's absolutely crucial. There's no other way around it. Today, even any of the new products that we launch, I directly track those products, and we send out to consumers. We have the brand and the category managers themselves have to call up the customers and get the feedback and put together what the product is happening, because what you hypothesized and built for isn't what necessarily the consumer is understanding. So it's important that we all we have a good sense of what the consumer understands rather than what you have been communicating. So absolutely, that's where I would start. Build out some product, and not just friends and family. In fact, not friends and family. That anyways one does while product development, but it has to be absolutely neutral customers. And 100 customers that you directly take qualitative feedback from, and at least 500 customers from which you can get a sense of the ratings of the products. Nothing substitutes that. And then rework the product, the packaging, positioning, and then go big. We've done this multiple times where we've tried to just, we think we've figured it out. We think we have a great product, we have the greatest proposition, gone all out, and then realize that we missed quite a few things. So it's a 3-month cycle, at least from the time of launch. But as much as people say, go out there, it's go big or go home. You have to go big, but after you've set your foundations a little more strongly. I mean, in the tech world, you have the MVP concept. All of those, I think, are fundamentally the same things, which is you need to get your first product in, get your first 100 customers, get the feedback, and see whether they're buying it back again or not.
For sure. And we're wrapping up our session, so I'm going to leave you with one more question. And this is kind of the future of the food and beverage space and commerce. If I'm a new early stage D2C brand and I'm just entering the market today, what's the best piece of advice you can give me to future-proof my business with all these new trends, new channels, different ways of selling, etc.?
Have someone with a very objective view, not just friends and family who are, someone who has a much more objective view. Second is be clear in terms of what's your ambition and scale. Because if you're looking to build a very large category and brand, then you need to understand how big is the category in the first place. And you have to be absolutely brutal and honest to yourself in terms of, is the category large enough or not? That is absolute. If the category is large enough, then and you're convinced about it, then you can always build out a large enough brand there. But if the category is not large enough, you may have the greatest product, but you may just get outpriced, or it's just too niche a product. It may be a great product, there's no doubt about it. But I look at category sizing as extremely important, crucial before you start going down this path, and you have to be absolutely brutal and honest, which is where I think as founders, we tend to be more emotional because we tend to get very passionate that this we have to do. So we find reasons to convince ourselves. But I think it's important that we have an objective and an absolutely honest view on the size of the category.
That's wonderful, and such a nice thought to end on. Being passionate, but having that objective view, being honest with yourself about what you're doing and what you want to do and your ambitions there. And I think that's a great way to future-proof your brand and to make sure that you're developing for the right reasons and not just for your passion. So thank you so much, Sudarshan, for joining us today. It was so wonderful to have this conversation. We touched on a bunch of different points, but I think a lot of it is really great fundamental knowledge for early stage D2Cs. Great conversation around Amazon, around personalization, around owning your customer data and building that trust. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone who's on the live stream today, give Bajo Foods a follow, give Low Foods and Protein Chef a follow. Make sure that you're keeping up to date with what they're doing because it's really, really cool in the space. And definitely give Mason a follow on Twitter and LinkedIn. Again, thank you so much, Sudarshan, for joining us. And I hope everyone has a great Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me over. Great talking to you.
Thanks.
Bye.